Hi, welcome back to another edition of the Coach's Corner. With me, as always, Coach Clayton. How are you doing today?
Never better, my friend.
Always, never better. So, to start, man, Aaron Rodgers. What are your thoughts? You think he'll be in Green Bay next year?
From what everybody's saying, no. But this sounds a lot like the Russell Wilson ordeal, where everybody was convinced Russ was leaving. Russ is unhappy, right? And Russ didn't go anywhere. I think that this is a similar situation with Aaron Rodgers. It sounds like he's planned it a little bit more. More comes out every day. Now today we've learned that he was telling free agents like, "Hey, if you're re-signing because of me, don't, because I don't plan on being back here." That's kind of a deal, but ultimately, I don't feel like he has a whole lot of leverage, and it's almost like the Packers are probably going to call his bluff in the same way that they called Brett Favre's bluff. It's almost the similarity it feels like, right? So I guess we just got to see how it plays out, but it does look like the Denver Broncos are the front runner with the San Francisco 49ers drafting Trey Lance. Seems like Kyle Shanahan has his guy to mold. Obviously, they would take Aaron Rodgers as well. You don't say no to that. But it seems like Denver's the front runners in a trade based on pieces they could afford to give, the overall depth of the team. And being in a win-now mode with how good their roster actually is. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's for sure. I agree with you. I think that this seems a little bit more realistic than obviously Russell Wilson. I feel like Rodgers might have a little bit more leverage in this situation, possibly. But I think at the end of the day, it is Love your guy. And I don't know. I know there are some fans and people in the media that believe that drafting Love was simply to light a fire underneath Aaron Rodgers to get him to, play well, because, they didn't have exactly the best supporting cast around him. But when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, he can make a lot out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do feel like Love's your guy, then is he ready now, or do you wait a year? You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I know that, there's a bunch of, different similarities and differences, I guess you could say, between the Russell Wilson situation and then also Aaron Rodgers. But moving on, NFL draft reaction. All right, so give me some names of some guys in the first round that you like where they went.
Oh man, well, I love Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know what Urban Meyer is going to do. Just to pick off the big one right off the bat, I think Patrick Surtain in Denver is going to be a really good player. And I really like where Rashad Bateman ended up going. I thought that was an excellent pick. And Baltimore trying to do what they set out to do, and that's get more weapons, right?
Yeah, and I wonder how much taking Rashad Bateman at 27 changed the draft plans for New Orleans, Green Bay, you could even argue. Just both teams that, we've talked about on the show that they want to find kind of that, number 2 wide receiver, because they both have elite number ones, that and Devontae Adams and Michael Thomas. But getting, Rashad Bateman there, I think that I had mocked at 27. I had Jason Away. I figured they would go edge. And then wide receiver, I think I had mocked Terrace Marshall going 31. But I think that Bateman was way too much value to pass up. It's everything that they want in a wide receiver. You think about that division, and we've talked about it on the show too. You have a guy who played in the Big Ten and playing in that division, they're wanting to play football in January and hopefully get into February playing football. And to do so, you're going to have to go through cold weather. So, that might have played a little bit of a factor into it. But regardless, they needed that bigger body type receiver to kind of help with Lamar Jackson and being able to pass the ball to actual receivers, not a bunch of tight ends / H-backs, and then just deep to Hollywood Brown. So overall, I think that they had a great draft. But for me, I'll be selfish here. I love the Christian Darrisaw pick to the Vikings because I almost had a heart attack the entire draft night because that was the guy I wanted the entire time. Like, I wouldn't have been sad if we ended up with Slater, or I would have been overjoyed if we ended up with Sewell, but I knew that probably wasn't going to happen. I would take a lot of things going your way and probably a trade up to make that happen. But not only were the Vikings able to get, quote unquote, their guy, they also picked up 2 third-round picks in the process that led to 2 guys that, one's, project quarterback and then a guy that could be a spot starter. So I really like the Christian Darrisaw pick. But then also looking at the draft, I really like the Najee Harris pick to Pittsburgh because that's a team we've talked about that they need to run the football in order to keep Big Ben alive and extend that longevity of his career. That's already, been a fairly long career. He's a kind of quote unquote last man standing from that, 2004 draft class of QBs. And, we talked about, like, he can't be passing the ball 50 times a game. Take a load off them. And that defense isn't going to be exactly what it used to be either. And with that being said, running the ball will kind of help keep them rested. So overall, yeah, I really like the Najee Harris pick.
Yeah, I think that was a great pick for the Steelers.
Are there any picks in the first round that you don't like?
I don't like the Justin Fields selection to Chicago, and here's why. A lot of people are gonna maybe disagree, but Mitchell Trubisky wasn't the problem last year. It's a Matt Nagy problem that Chicago has. It was a Chuck Pagano problem on defense. It was coaching, not a talent problem. And so you get rid of Trubisky, which fine, if he's not your flavor, if you don't think he's good, that's fine. He's given you film to justify that take. Completely understand. He's given you film to also see the other way and see the good traits that got him drafted where he was drafted, right? But overall, Justin Fields is walking into the same set of issues that Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles had last year. So, like, what's changed? What has overall changed for that team? The mentality remains the same. Matt Nagy is going back to be the play caller. So whenever the team had some success there in the stretch run down the up until the playoffs, because in the playoffs, Matt Nagy took over play calling. So you look at it and you say, okay, let's read between the lines here. Matt Nagy calls plays to start the year. They struggle. Bill Lazor comes back, calls plays with Trubisky. They start winning games. They start running the football effectively. They get a playoff berth. Matt Nagy takes over play calling. They get blown out in the playoff game. Am I missing something here, or are you seeing things the same way I am? Because I just don't understand. Matt Nagy's going to have to go for Justin Fields to have success. I mean, long term, that could be a great pick for them. But if they're committed to Matt Nagy and going to keep bringing him back and giving him unlimited chances, like in Mario, whenever you do the turtle trick in World 3, where you jump on the turtle and you just keep jumping on the turtle and you jump on it so many times, you just get unlimited lives, you can't die. That's like Matt Nagy in Chicago.
Yeah, I agree. I and the thing that really stumps me, I guess, is you have to look ahead to the second round because we'll get to the second round in a second. I'm going to get ahead to the second round. You get Tevin Jenkins, who played primarily, if I'm not mistaken, right tackle at Oklahoma State, and you'd think, okay, they moved on from Massey at right tackle. They have Leno at left tackle, and then you have Jenkins at right tackle. So at least, if Justin Fields is your, direction moving forward, that's great. But, at least you have protection for him. But then, they go on and they cut Leno, which, it's part of the business of the game. I don't think he was necessarily playing up to his contract. But now you're, unless the Bears are seeing something I'm not, which is, could very well be the case. You're playing a guy that probably should be playing right tackle at left tackle, and you're cutting your left tackle, who is a vet who I believe Leno was like a 7th round pick. And, relatively speaking, he played well for a 7th round pick. But going back to, what you're saying with Fields and having the same issues, I totally agree because not much has changed. If anything, the defense got worse and the offense didn't really get much better. I mean, you really essentially drafted one guy who's going to for sure be a starter week one, and that's Tevin Jenkins. Now, I think Daz Newsome, I like Daz Newsome. I think he'll be a rotational guy at wide receiver. I think eventually if they ride this quarterback carousel, if Dalton doesn't play well, if they feel like Fields is ready, they'll throw him in there. So sure, he's a starter. If they don't feel like Fields is ready, they're just going to go right back to Nick Foles, and not much is going to change. Arguably, things are going to get worse because Andy Dalton's probably way more mobile than Nick Foles has ever been. And so with that being said, yeah, I totally agree. I think this might be a total move on Pace's part to be like, well, hey, you could fire me if you want to, but I drafted this, first-round quarterback. Maybe we just need a change in regime as far as coaching is concerned, and maybe he's trying to save his job and be like, well, I put the pieces together, but, Matt Nagy wasn't able to get it done. But right. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. The other pick that I would kind of at least question is Leatherwood. Now, I know that on the draft broadcast, they were talking about Mike Mayock and how he always said if you have a certain level of conviction towards a guy, then you're going to take him. And who knows, maybe Alex Leatherwood pans out at right tackle and all is well. But if he doesn't, you're talking about a team that, they drafted Cleveland Farrell, the number 4 overall pick. And there's been a lot that's come out about how they liked Devin White over Cleveland Farrell, but they ended up with Farrell instead of Devin White, and they still have problems at linebacker. And I think that a lot of fans will see the safeties they drafted in later part of the draft. I think that that Diablo guy will probably play linebacker. I don't think they'll all play safety. But moving on to the second round, who are some of the picks that you liked in the second round?
To tag on at the end of the first round, I don't know how you feel about it. We can discuss this real quick, but I wasn't a fan of that Travis Etienne pick either from the Jets. Didn't really make sense from the Jets, or not the Jets, I'm sorry, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars standpoint, right? The Jaguars had James Robinson, who had a very good year. You could argue that he's not a pass catcher. He's not an explosive back. Okay, whatever. I mean, he had multiple explosive runs called back on holding calls. But really, they don't have a ton of pass-catching talent. DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, guys that are the true number ones, I don't know. They look like strong twos at top. But, to sit there and say, oh, Travis Etienne, and then declare him your third down back, that's a very questionable move, in my opinion. So you spend a first-round guy on a guy that's only going to play third downs for you and some situationals, special teams, some good guys were still on the board. I mean, we just mentioned Rashad Bateman would go 2 picks later, and you're looking for a third down. What do third down backs do? They catch the football, right? If you're looking for pass catchers, why not just draft Rashad Bateman, get a wide receiver to go with your shiny new quarterback? I didn't understand that move by Urban Meyer.
Fidel, just talking NFL draft, I swear we're not trashing the Raiders. No Raider trashing here. No Alex Leatherwood here. But, I agree. I think that we love you, Fidel. I think that mostly, you look at ETN. He's a guy that he's essentially, could you say that he's essentially a slot receiver, a guy that, you could play kind of in the slot and you could still play Robinson, have them both on the field at the same time. But at that point, why not just take the receiver? I think it's kind of overkill, the fact that, he's like, better not. But you see it kind of as overkill maybe with the Robinson. I know that the NFL is it's running back by committee these days, but you go out and Fidel doesn't get it either. You go out and you get Carlos Hyde, who it might just be an insurance policy to Carlos Hyde, because I know he was quote unquote Urban's guy at Ohio State, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily Urban's guy in the NFL, because that was however many years ago in college. And with that being said, I would have thought that the Bateman pick would have made more sense. But we'll see. I mean, I know that Urban probably wants that 1-2 punch, but, we'll see. Lawrence is already running the franchise. All right, going on to the second round. What are some picks that you like in the second round?
Oh man, I felt like there were some really good players that fell into good situations. You know, you had to fall. This had to be like Christmas Day watching film on some of these guys, right? And just opening a new gift over new gift. You being an offensive line guy to watch guys like Jackson Carman and Dylan Reduns, Tevin Jenkins, these
Landon
guys that end up
Dickerson.
going into second. I mean, these guys are hog mollies, to put it politely.
Yeah.
These guys are big human beings. Like, I'll never forget my first day at McKendree. I mean, this is a Division II college, right? My first day at McKendree, I'm looking around. I'm like, I didn't know they made human beings this big. I've never seen them. I've never seen 6'7", 350 pounds before. I'm like, my God, I'm glad you're on my team. This is Division II. I mean, these guys are better. I won't say that about my boys, back at McKendree, but like these guys are better. And man, I love that Dylan Reduns pick. I love the Tevin Jenkins pick, and I love the Jackson Carman pick for the Cincinnati Bengals because that dude is a hoss.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Wheeler Walker Little pick for Jacksonville. I think that it's an insurance policy for Jennings and or not Jennings for Taylor, Jawan Taylor and Cam Robinson. Also, I really like the Trevin Moehrig pick, and here's why. I think that if Oakland's able to play him kind of deep center field, if you will, it only allows a guy like Abrams to play in the box more and do what he does well. And, they brought back Carl Joseph. It allows him to play in the box. And so, they still kind of have a problem at linebacker, but when you essentially have these strong safeties that are linebackers, it's going to really help the run defense out. And I think it was a perfect pick for the Raiders. Also, another pick, I would be remiss if I didn't say Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah going, falling, right in the lap of Cleveland. And now, I mean, I don't think he was a guy that Cleveland really expected to be there, but it was just way too good a value to pass up on. And, I think that they could probably play him maybe right away at will. He's going to have to compete with Jacob Phillips. But or is he a guy that you play at safety? I know that they signed John Johnson, but is Delpit going to be available and ready to go week one? We'll see. I think he will be, but if not, it just adds kind of an extra insurance policy in case he isn't. And you're going to find a way to get him on the field. He's just far too talented to not be on the field, in my opinion. A little bit of a man crush on him.
I didn't know if you were going to bring him up or you wanted to talk about him first, but to throw one more guy out there before we come to selections we didn't like. I was saving it, obviously. You already know who I'm going to say here is quarterback Kyle Trask out of University of Florida. This is a perfect landing spot. This is the dude this is a guy that's already proven that he takes every rep and every opportunity seriously. Mm-hmm. Doesn't start a game after his freshman year of high school until his junior year of college, right? And he was prepared. He comes out and he plays LSU and gave LSU all they wanted, in his first collegiate start since he's a freshman in high school. The mental fortitude that takes, I can't convey into words. That's a dude that's not slacking off. Like normally you worry about your backups. And you're like, oh, are they taking this seriously? They know what's going on? Are they studying? Kyle Trask takes that seriously. And if you don't think he's not going to be watching Tom Brady, a guy that doesn't get by on his arm strength, on his athletic ability, on things like that, he gets by on just knowing the game, which is exactly how Trask was a Heisman finalist this past season and set several Florida passing records and several SEC records as well. Is just knowing the offense, knowing where to go with the ball, having really good location, and having a lot better mechanics from the last year. And I'm really excited to see how he progresses. Is the heir apparent? I don't know. But I think this was an excellent pick. I've had to sit and listen to guys dump on him in the draft team, and I just kind of kept my mouth shut like, oh, okay, that's your opinion. My opinion's pretty strong. Kyle Trask is a good quarterback, and he couldn't have gone to a better situation to learn how to play the quarterback position. And, if Brady plays for 2 more years, that's even better. He's still going to be on a rookie deal. He's still going to absorb all that information. I don't think there's anybody in this draft class that's going to take a backup role more seriously than what Kyle Trask would be. A guy like Fields, Wilson, or Lawrence, they get pissed, just to put it bluntly. They'd be mad. Why am I not the starter? Trask is going to say, that's okay, my time's going to come, because he's already been through this before.
Yeah, and whenever Kyle Trask does end up, taking over the reins, whether it be in a year, 2 years from now, whatever the case may be, you're still looking at a supporting cast. If they can pay Chris Godwin, I think he'll still be around. If they can still afford Mike Evans, I think he'll be around. You have Scotty Miller. You have Tyler Johnson. I know that they drafted the North Texas kid. And then on top of that, I would think that, some sort of combination of Howard and Brake will still be there. You'll still have Keyshawn Vaughn, most likely Ronald Jones. And so with that being said, it's just kind of like there's such a great supporting cast around him. And that's not even including guys that they could potentially add, And so I think it's a great situation for him, no matter how long he sits under Tom Brady. That, like they say with good steaks, man, the longer you let that puppy marinate, man, the better it gets. So are there any picks in the second round that you didn't like?
I was not a fan of Rondale Moore to the Arizona Cardinals. I'm sorry to my boy Parker up in Canada. I know he doesn't want to hear that. I know he loves the pick, but I'm just at all the needs that they have defensively mainly, to take another kind of gadget guy after signing AJ Green, after trading for DeAndre Hopkins, after you got Christian Kirk who looks good, you've got Andy Isabella who makes appearances frequently. You look at Andy Isabella and Rondale Moore and you go, okay, if you can't use Andy Isabella, what makes you think that Rondale Moore is all of a sudden just going to burst on the scene? I think Rondale Moore is an excellent football player. He's one of my favorite guys coming out this year, but I'm just not excited because of the crowded wide receiver room to see him do what he can do. And I think they have more pressing needs that, they could have addressed it instead of Rondale Moore and wide receiver.
Yeah, the one pick that I didn't really like Pete Warner to the New Orleans Saints. I feel like at that point in time, there was still, albeit maybe not, a whole lot of wide receiver talent left on the board, but there was still some. And, I think I have to think that Terrace Marshall was going to be the pick there. You want one pick before, but I have to think that he would have been the pick for them. But, there's a bunch of different ways they could have gone with that pick. But, you look at a guy like, even a Josh Palmer. Second round might be a little early for him still, but there was a lot of production from Palmer at Tennessee. I really liked it. But you also had guys like Chaz Surratt on the board if they wanted to go linebacker. Maybe they felt like, Warner was a little bit better of a scheme fit. But, if you wanted to go with an Ohio State guy, I think that Baron Browning probably would have been a better potential prospect to go. Granted, like I said, you have to have conviction about who you're picking. And there's a pretty big hole there at weak side linebacker for them. And if they felt like Warner was the guy, Warner was the guy. But I personally wasn't a fan of it. But I'm not sad about it. I'm kind of happy it's the Saints. All right, on to the third round. What picks did you like?
Just to highlight a couple of them, I did really like your Vikings pick of Chaz Surratt. I think that he's a guy that continues to get better since he was recruited to play quarterback, and now he's a linebacker. That's a big mentality switch, and I think he continues to get better at that position. We've seen every year. I like Amari Rodgers. I think he's going to fill that slot role that Randall Cobb used to fill very well. I think that's a very good comp for him. You can't get a higher compliment, in my opinion, if somebody calls you Randall Cobb. I mean, that's a heck of a football player. And then shout out to Ned here on the network. I really like that Trey Sermon pick to San Francisco 49ers. I know they've got a ton of guys that they use in rotation to run the football. Mostert's still there, but I think Sermon's a guy that's he runs really hard, And I think that's going to be part of. There's Kyle Shanahan doesn't draft guys or go after guys for no reason. So I think you're going to see Sermon fit kind of the identity he's trying to bring with with the new regime and Trey Lance, Sermon. Kittle's a smash mouth guy. Debo, we know, is a very physical player, and even Brandon Ayuk for his size is a very physical player as well. So I think he'll fit that physicalness that they're searching for in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that running back room in San Francisco. Obviously, you have Jeffrey Wilson, you have Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon, as you mentioned, but they also ended up getting Wayne Gallman, which, I mean, a lot of people, if you paid attention to when Saquon Barkley went down, I think Wayne Gallman did a pretty good job filling in those shoes, and those are some big shoes to fill, both figuratively and literally. I think that, he did a great job of filling that. I like the Kellen Mond pick for the Vikings. I think that it was more so he's a developmental guy. He has a bunch of tools. He's inconsistent. I think that if you were to kind of look at what the Vikings were looking for in a project quarterback, I think that, it's everything that you want in a project quarterback. And I really like the pick. Also, Jalen Mayfield, fourth pick in the fourth pick in the third round, going to the Atlanta Falcons. That's great value. There's some people that talked about him maybe going second round or for first round or top of the second round. I also have to say that I liked my boy Quinn Maynard's going to your Broncos late. Was a good one. But Patrick Jones and Wyatt Davis are both guys that at some point I think everybody had a first-round grade on that fell to Minnesota. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go there. The Vikings had 4 third-round picks. I liked them all. But I think that all those picks I really, really enjoyed. Are there any picks that you were not a fan of?
Yeah, don't be mad at me, but I do not like that Kellen Mond pick. I don't understand it. You look at what they need, and you could circle several things. Obviously, you're trying to address the line. You want the best possible starting five you can have up front with Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins. Your two stars at Thielen. You got Justin Jefferson. But I don't think Kellen Mond is a guy that's real mechanically sound. And yeah, you could refine mechanics, but I always say, man, and it's not a real popular opinion, but Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, those guys are outliers in refining their craft. Real athletic guys, they don't like the mechanical side of playing quarterback. They typically just do not like it, and they struggle to pick it up. And if your accuracy comes and goes, you could be a strong-armed guy, you could be an accurate guy, you could be an athletic guy, and that's what you get a guy like Trevor Lawrence that's got all those traits. He's a unicorn, right? But I think the things that Kellen Mond are lacking, it's going to be very hard for him to learn. And I could be wrong, but I feel like this is kind of a dart throw where Jalen Hurts hit for the Eagles, or we think they've hit. And I think this is the Vikings saying, hey, he's very similar to Jalen Hurts in a lot of ways. Let's throw the dartboard, since this is the kind of quarterback that's having success in the NFL right now, and just see what happens. And, if that happens, congratulations. If it doesn't happen, he doesn't play, people are going to come back to Mike Zimmer. They're going to come back to the general manager, and they're going to say, why did we draft a quarterback in the second round that's not going to play? And if he doesn't play next year, they're going to say, this is 2 years now. Kellen Mond hasn't got to play. What's the deal? He's not even getting reps in practice. And I think it was kind of a risky pick, personally.
I am a fan of it just because at this point, unless somebody gives us an offer we can't refuse, Kirk Cousins is going to be the starting quarterback for the next 2 years. And statistically, Kirk's coming off, you could argue, maybe his best season as a pro. And this was without any sort of defense. No defense whatsoever, and no pass protection. I mean, none. Statistically coming off his best season as a pro, and possibly got hit the most he has as a pro, and that's including his time in Washington, which is pretty embarrassing. So with that being said, I think that they wanted a guy that, is kind of the quote unquote modern NFL quarterback. And the nice thing is knowing that, unless Kirk Cousins gets hurt or just plays horrible, Kellen Mond's not going to have to see the field. And so he's going to be able to develop, and maybe you work on a lot of that mechanics. There's a lot of stuff that he has that you can't really teach. I know he has a really, really strong arm, but also, like I said, he has lots of experience in the college game, played in the SEC. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily the successor, but I think that it's better than what you got. And I love Jake Browning out of Washington. I don't think that his shoulder's going to hold up. I love me some Nate Stanley out of Iowa, but I think he's more of a project, you could argue, than Kellen Mond. So kind of hot and cold on that one. Ones that I didn't like personally. I think that the Baltimore Ravens going Brandon Stevens out of SMU. I think it was very early for him to go. You saw a run late in the third round on corners, starting with Nahshon Wright, Elijah Molden, and then so on and so forth. Wasn't a particular fan of that pick. I think that Malcolm Kuntz also went a little bit early. But overall, outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot of picks that I didn't like. I think if Andre Sisco's knee holds up, I think he might be one of the steals of the third round personally. But now on to the fourth round. What picks do you like?
Here's my answer. It's acceptable here. I won't tolerate any other answers. I won't hear of it. The answer is Southern Illinois, their own Royce Newman getting drafted to the Green Bay Packers. Royce Newman, a kid coming from Nashville, Illinois, a very good athlete, 4-star prospect coming out of Nashville. He's played multiple positions out of there. You just love to see a kid like Royce Newman go this early in the draft, because this whole area is called devoid of talent and not worth scouting, is what you're told as a kid. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, well, I guess we don't really have a whole lot of kids down there. Typically, guys out there, yeah, shut up. We're sending draft picks there. Ezekiel Elliott's from Alton, Illinois. I've said it before. Adoree Jackson's from Belleville, Illinois. These are kids in the area that are just getting overlooked. Jordan Berner at SIUC. Chester product. There's tons of kids down here, and I'm so happy for Royce Newman, a kid I actually played baseball and basketball in like the summer and stuff against. So kind of neat moment. Happy for him to come out and just give people in Southern Illinois a chance. Maybe that's more of a homer pick for me, but it was very awesome. And the Vikings also signed a kicker from Edwardsville, and so Southern Illinois getting some love this 2021 NFL offseason.
Yeah, I have some love for Edwardsville. My one of my roommates when I was at Kirkwood, his dad is the head coach at Edwardsville, so he told me all about good old AJ Epinesa before he was even a Hawkeye. So I have some love for Edwardsville. As far as my pick for the fourth round, I have a couple of them that I really liked. I think starting off, you could probably go with Amara St. Brown to the Lions. Right there, they instantly filled a need. When you lose Babytron and then you lose Marvin Jones, I think that, there was a hole at receiver there. We talked about it on the show. You do sign Perriman, you do sign Williams. They do have Quintez Cephas, who I like. But outside of that, Geronimo Allison, outside of that, there wasn't really any sort of, guy that, scared you on the outside. Now, they did get Sage Surratt as a UDFA. Really like that pickup. Surprised he wasn't drafted. Probably the 40 time. 40 time always gets him. Next pick that I really enjoyed was Tylan Wallace, another wide receiver going to the Baltimore Ravens. We talked about how the Ravens really needed wide receiver help. They ended up answering kind of it in the first round with Rashad Bateman. But outside of that, I really liked Tylan Wallace. I feel like if it wasn't for his injury, I think that he would have probably gone sooner. He's just under 6 foot tall. He's 193, kind of in the same mold as a Devin Duvernay. But I think that he was a guy that some people had a late first round grade on, or for sure a second round grade on, that ends up falling to the fourth round. What were some picks that you were not a fan
of? Yeah, again, I'm super sorry, Parker, but I wasn't a fan of Marco Wilson. Even though I'm a Florida guy, I thought that Marco Wilson played out of his means, and by that I feel like he overstretched himself. Maybe tried to do some things he wasn't capable of. In fact, if you I could read a bunch of the comments during football season, a bunch of Florida fans were cheering when Marco was absent for a couple game stretch. He's like, wow, look how much better our defense is, no penalties. And then, of course, the infamous who throws a shoe moment and when Marco picked up the shoe, throws it, and costs us the game against LSU. That was pretty big. So I don't think the Cardinals are going to find their answer at corner with Marco Wilson.
Yeah, for me personally, there are two picks that I wasn't necessarily a fan of. One of them, my Vikings, Kene Nwangu. Now, is he a heck of an athlete? Yes. Yes, we're talking like 6'1", 210. He ran a blazing 40 time. But overall, I wasn't a fan of the pick. I think that right now he's competing with Amir Abdullah for running back 3, and he's probably going to be competing with KJ Osborne and Amir Smith-Marset, and you could probably argue Chad Beebe for kick returning and punt returning duties. But, at that point in the fourth round, I felt like there was a lot of talent left on board. I think they were mostly banking on upside. The other pick that I did not like, and we'll get your opinion on it because it's a quarterback, I did not like the Ian Book pick. Ian Book is a guy that he did win a lot at Notre Dame. I did not think he would go this early. I mean, it would not have surprised me if he went undrafted, and that's because I don't really foresee him being an NFL type quarterback. I mean, yeah, he's 6 foot, about 210. But I mean, outside of that, like, I don't really know what to classify him as. I mean, I think a lot of people had 6th or 7th round, or maybe priority undrafted free agent, grades on him. I mean, he's a good RPO quarterback. I'll give him credit for that. But there's so much more in the NFL's game than being an RPO quarterback. I don't think that he gets through his progressions fast enough. I think that, and because of that, he's indecisive. I think that, his accuracy is not the greatest. I don't think that he has the zip to get it through the tight windows you'll see in the NFL, which, sure, is that all stuff you can work on? Yeah, but what are your thoughts on that pick? You're the quarterback guy.
Yeah, I think Ian Book is a guy that was not super athletic, but he wasn't real great pocket passer either. He kind of lived in that middle ground, and he did have some rushing production. At Notre Dame, he had some moments that made you say, hey, here's a guy. And I know a lot of Notre Dame fans said, hey, he's a good guy, but like, no, mechanically, he was lost at times, and that was the thing that was really jarring. To see a guy miss some easy throws and not have an answer why. That's the scary part. And it looked like he got really rattled under pressure more often than not. It's okay to run, or it's okay to attack the line of scrimmage. It's not okay to immediately tuck the ball. That's a bad response, and it seemed like that was his response more often than not. And so that's not a style of play that translates to the next level. That's a high school mentality. That's you being an above average athlete at college mentality. That's not a pro quarterback mentality.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that. On to the 5th round. What are some picks that you liked?
Oh man, you know, I really like the Brevin Jordan tight end out of Miami to the Houston Texans. I think they're struggling for talent at receiver right now, especially after losing Will Fuller. And I think he's special when the ball's in his hands. Obviously, he's got some other things he needs to do to work on. Needs to be a better blocker. Being a tight end, that's huge. Being able to be not just a receiving threat, but when the ball's in his hands, man, he's a freak. He's a wide receiver. They're early on in the year before the season started. This is a guy they're talking about pushing Kyle Pitts, as the number one tight end maybe. And so I think that speaks volumes. Obviously, he didn't have the season. Miami didn't have the season to back up maybe his production, but he still had great production. And I think that he's going to see a lot of volume. And I think Kenneth Gainwell to the Philadelphia Eagles, I think that he's going to be the backup for their running back who missed a lot of time. Overall great prospect. His mind escapes me right now. But just like last year, he missed half the season. The best ability is availability. We say that time and time again, right? And I think Kenneth Gainwell is a very good runner of the football.
I'm surprised you didn't go with Evan McPherson, the kicker out of Florida, going to Cincinnati. You're a Florida boy, man. But yeah, I like the Kenneth Gainwell pick too. But for me, I'm gonna go. I was gonna go Brevin Jordan, but we touched on Brevin Jordan. I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna be selfish here. I'm going Zach Davidson. He was my boy from the beginning out of Central Missouri. I've brought him up in draft meetings before. 6'7", 245. Just crazy athletic. I really like his production. He had just under 900 yards and 15 touchdowns in the 2019 season. They didn't play in 2020. So I really like the pick. I think there was a hole there or a need there at tight end with Kyle Rudolph going. And do I think he's going to necessarily fill in right away with the Kyle Rudolph-like production? No, but I think he's a guy with the physical tools to develop into potentially a pretty athletic tight end. But I'm also going to go with Davion Nixon to the Carolina Panthers. I think that the rich get richer. I know that they spent their entire draft class last year on defense, and they got Brevion Roy, they got Derek Brown, pretty much their entire defensive line outside of obviously Brian Burns, which they got the 2019 draft. They're all starters for them on the defensive line, so I think adding that depth was very necessary for them. And for my last pick, I like. And for no other reason other than it's the Baltimore Ravens and it's a fullback, Ben Mason, going to the Baltimore Ravens. Just typical Ravens thing, draft a fullback, because why not? We want to run the football. Are there any picks you didn't like in the 5th round?
Yeah, Jamar Johnson, safety out of Indiana, going to the Denver Broncos. It's not that I don't like Jamar Johnson, but just a few picks earlier, Denver took Caden Stearns, safety out of Texas. We just made Justin Simmons the highest paid safety in the league. We just re-signed Kareem Jackson. Now, Kareem Jackson, he's older, and therefore I understand Caden Stearns, but to draft 2 safeties and not address the offensive line, which has given us issues, and now there's a Jawan James injury, and they're scrambling to find a tackle. It's just baffling. This is the 3rd pick on a defensive back this draft in the first 5 rounds. Don't ask me why.
For me, I was actually going to go the same direction you were going. I think that it was kind of a little bit overkill. I love both these safeties, and I think with Vic Fangio, I think he really wants the no-fly zone defense, and I think that's probably why he went this way. Because, yeah, I mean, obviously Justin Simmons is still fairly young. Kareem Jackson's probably he's getting up there in age. This might be his last year. I think it's safe to say that. But you think that maybe Johnson and Stearns will duke it out for that safety spot. Maybe, but I think it's just something where they really want competition. Because if you look at this defensive backfield, obviously the Patrick Surtain pick in the first round. You have Jamar Johnson and Caden Stearns. And then later, obviously, we'll preview the 7th round, but you get Kerry Vincent Jr. So I think that he really wants to breed competition in that defensive backfield room because it's a passing league. We all know that. They already have, obviously, Bradley Chubb and Von Miller to help with the pass rush. But also, at the same time, it's kind of nice having guys like the guys they were able to pick up to really help cover guys. And so, yeah, I think that drafting both of them was a little bit of overkill. But, if it works out in the end, Denver Bronco fans will be happy. For me, I'm going to go with Traquan Graham. He went really early 5th round to the Atlanta Falcons. There are aspects to his game I really like. I do think that he is a 3 technique. He has really, really long arms, 35-inch arms, actually. And so he's really built, a lot of people say, like an offensive lineman, but with those types of hands, that's how you get that separation. And I think that he's going to be really a pass rushing 3 technique, but he didn't really have a whole heck of a lot of production while at Texas, at least late. And so with that being said, 2019 was his way better season. But with all that being said, I think that, it was a little early for him. But once you get to the 5th round, it's just kind of like you draft guys off a trait. So it wasn't a terrible pick. I just think that they probably could have gotten him a little bit later. Seeing as there were still, other guys on the board that maybe, some other people had a higher grade on. But if they felt like he was the best pass rushing 3 tech to play the role they wanted to play, then, that's a great pick. On to the 6th round. Now we're going to get real nitpicky here. What are some picks that you like?
I like the Hamza Nazaruddin pick by the New York Jets. Hamza was a guy that myself and Ned were very high on during this whole draft process. This is a guy that's 6'3", 215, 34-inch arms. Really, really lengthy guy. And I thought his ball skills were pretty good kind of Florida State. So did Ned. I actually had an early 3rd round grade on him. Obviously, the NFL viewed it a little differently, and that's okay. But I really like the way Hamza Nazaruddin plays.
For me, I have a couple players that I like. One of them was, the gentleman you just mentioned. I think if it wasn't for his knee injury, I think he goes way early, way earlier than that. I think that a lot of people, because of the injury, felt him, you could say maybe a 5th round grade, but to get him there in the 6th was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Deontay Brown pick to the Carolina Panthers. Here's a guy who, some people might have had like a 3rd, 4th round grade on him. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he's given up a sack in his college career, if I'm not mistaken. And here's a guy who had to go against Derek Brown last year, or not last year, but the 2019 season. And he really, held his own. And, I think a lot of people are comping him to, I think I've seen somewhere Gabe Jackson. And to get him in the 6th round is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's about as huge as he is. 6'3", 344, man. Like, where's the beef, man? Another pick I like, I'll admit, Jalen Twyman, the Tom Brady pick, going to the Vikings in the 6th round. There are some people, I know we've talked about, he could have had like a 1st round grade on him, opted out. Can't really blame a guy for opting out. If they felt like it was the best thing for him to do, it's the best thing for him to do. But here's a guy that, monster 2019 season. And some people might think, maybe he's a 1-year wonder. I know that some people, saw that, it's great that you had 10.5 sacks in essentially 13 games, but, you only did it for 1 year, so, and there's also some people pointing at, how he was relatively light. I know he got his weight up through the draft process, constantly training. So he's right about the 300-pound range, which is kind of where you want him to be. And then 2 more picks that I liked. Daz Newsome I talked about. I think that he's a heck of an athlete. And I think he can play the slot for them. And I think that he can also pick up returning duties as well. Just adding another weapon for, Fields in the future. Last pick in the 6th round I liked, Trey Smith. Here's a guy that, some people had the 2nd, 3rd round grade on. Maybe he sneaks back into the 1st round, and you get him in the 6th round. Big guys, about 6'6", 321, playing guard for the Chiefs. I think it's everything that they want. I mean, could you imagine that left side of the line? Or, you could say left side of the line of Trey Smith and Orlando Brown. I mean, talk about just maulers, man. I mean, would you like to play quarterback on that offensive line where that the left side of your line is like, 600 some pounds? Like, yeah, bring the beef, man. Any picks in the 6th round that you don't like? Here's where we're going to get real nitpicky.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to... yeah, Sam Ehlinger to the Indianapolis Colts.
I was waiting for that.
Honey, what is you doing? That's what's going through my head. It's not that I don't like Sam Ehlinger, but I've seen better quarterbacks than him go undrafted. So I was pretty confused at. I guess they want a raw prospect to mold in the same they think they can mold in the same fashion that Carson Wentz was. But that's a stretch. I really don't know the logic here. In Sam Ehlinger.
I think that it might have just been that, he could throw the ball 12 of 31 for 169 yards, one touchdown and 3 picks, but they could still be in a game. And by the end of the game, he wins the game for him. I just think it's probably more so intangibles like that they really liked about Sam. And they know that, I mean, there's really no pressure on him to be a starter. I mean, there's no shot at him even making the active roster this season. He'll probably be a guy that is a practice squad guy if he doesn't. Because I think, it depends on how many quarterbacks they want to have on the roster. For sure, they'll have Wentz and Eason. I think, if they carry 3, I think he'll be the 3rd. Or if not, I think he'll be, a practice squad guy. But for me, Thomas Fletcher, the long snapper out of Alabama, drafted in the 6th round, 38th pick in the 6th round to the Carolina Panthers. Now, long snappers are important. Obviously, being a Vikings fan, I realize the struggles of kicking game when you don't have it. But, you already have J.J. Jansen. Granted, he is 35 years old. He's getting up there in age, a little bit. But you'd think that with some of the players still on board at that point, I mean, you'd have to think that they would want to go a different direction. I mean, you're talking, with the Carolina Panthers, they're a team that really could have used offensive line help, in my opinion. I don't think they're settled at guard. You have Pat Elflein starting for you at guard and Dennis Daly. Now, granted, they did take Deontay Brown, but could you imagine if they would have taken Trey Smith? Your guards would literally be 2 massive human beings, and they're protecting Sam Darnold, helps out Christian McCaffrey. And, yeah, that was my pick. Very nitpicky, though. On to the 7th round. Who are picks that you like?
I like the Washington football team taking a flyer here on Dax Milne from BYU, wide receiver. This is a guy that he's played a lot of unconventional football with Zach Wilson, so he's pretty raw. There's a reason he fell this far, but at the same time, we've seen that he's capable of playing some good football and being effective after the catch. So I think that in Washington they're just starving for playmakers right now. I think he fits that role for them.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with Jonathan Cooper going to the Denver Broncos. Here's a guy that he really turned it up in the playoff games. I mean, he was seemingly always in Trevor Lawrence's lap, and I think that he's going to fill a great rotational need for them. But another guy that I liked, I'm gonna say it, Presley Harvin III, the punter, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 7th round. Why the heck not? You know what I mean? 254 overall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's a guy. He's gigantic for a punter. I mean, he is 5'11", 263, booming leg, and I just I really liked him. You know, fun fact: threw a 41-yard touchdown on a fake punt. Any picks that you don't like in the 7th round, that's major nitpicky.
Yeah, I'll go with Kylan Hill, the running back out of Mississippi State, just because he went to the Packers. The Packers really just had to be trying to give Aaron Rodgers the middle finger by saying we refused to draft a wide receiver. We took one, and Amari Rodgers. But, you know, they've already got several guys. You just paid Aaron Jones. You just drafted one in the 2nd round that's more of a fullback than anything. They've got so many running back over in Green Bay. Why add another one?
For me, it's Mr. Irrelevant, about as nitpicky as it gets. I really think it should have been Marvin Wilson. I think that Marvin Wilson would have really, really helped out the Buccaneers because, and listen to me here, Vita Vea got hurt last season, and their defense played so much better once he got healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Wilson's a guy that probably could have rotated in at nose. I think he probably could have played the 5 technique too. But if you want to talk about a guy, your number one job is to sub Vea when he comes out. I think he would have been the perfect pick for him in that position. You know, I know they want Joe Tryon early to help the pass rush at defensive end or kind of outside linebacker. But that's just my opinion. You know, I know that there were many reasons why Marvin Wilson fell. Talk about a guy who potentially could have been a 1st-round pick. That went undrafted. Obviously, is in Cleveland now. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Thanks for tuning into this week's edition of the Coach's Corner. Coach's Corner is presented by Lamb of God Designs. Go to lambofgod.faith. Use promo code #EastWest for 10% off your order. And we will see you next week.